We now have one of the best Macs in history, light, strong and silent. However, it appears that MacBook will be even better in 2023. More MacBooks with more features, more power and more sizes. Let's take a look at everything we know so far about the upcoming 2023 MacBooks. First and foremost, there are new products in the lineup. The current product family is already quite diverse. M1 13.3-inch MacBook Air, M2 13.6-inch MacBook Air, M2 13.3-inch MacBook Pro. There are numerous options available. However, the M2 MacBook may get a bigger brother in the form of the 15-inch MacBook Air. The new laptop will undoubtedly have the same design as the current M2 MacBook Air. We like it with flat sides and rounded edges. The display size should be increased to 15.2 inches, which is in my opinion is the ideal size. Large enough to do some serious work and watch movies without feeling restricted by a small display size. The chip M2 will remain the same. Before the M2 Air was released, there were rumors that the 15 Air would get the M2 Pro option, but I don't think this will happen. Apple does not need a rival to the 14 and 16-inch Pro MacBooks, so the M2 is unnecessary. It's unclear whether Apple will offer an 8-core GPU version of this larger MacBook or only a higher tier 10-core GPU. But let's hope for the best. There will be no needs or leaks to understand that the base storage will remain the same. Essentially, it will be a larger version of the M2 MacBook Air. I'm not sure how good it will be if the speaker layout remains unchanged. With speakers close to the hinge, will there be any empty spaces on the keyboard's left and right side? The only way to know is to wait and see. According to the Mark Gurman, the release date is expected to be in 2023, but the production will begin in the first half of 2023 with the launch in the second quarter. We can only make educated guesses about prices. We don't know the exact price, but based on the current prices, we can make a guess. So the M2 13-inch Air starts at $1,200, the M2 13-inch Pro starts at $1,300, and the 14-inch Pro starts at $2,000. I believe the cost would be around between $1,500 to $1,600. The following are just my thoughts, but I believe the M1 MacBook Air will be discontinued or reduced in price at $999. It was still a good deal in 2022, but not so much in 2023. Dumping it would mean a $200 price decrease for the M2 13-inch Air to match it, which I doubt will happen. Here's my prediction. The M1 Air will be at $899 and the M2 13.6-inch Air will be at $1,099. This will create enough headroom for the 15-inch Air. Again, these are only my predictions. I'm not sure if Apple will surprise us with something new next year, but I'm confident that they will. You can already build your MacBook Extra right now, the most fascinating update of the year. However, it will undoubtedly be the new 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros. Until recently, the updated 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros models were expected to be unveiled in late 2022. Then Mark Gurman in an October newsletter wrote that the new MacBook Pro probably won't launch until early this year. Apple is famous for sticking with the same design for years, and it has been a little more than a year since the release of 14 and 16-inch Pro models in this new design. As a result, the basic hardware will remain the same 14.2 and 16.2 mini LEDs displays with ProMotion and a notch, a 1080p webcam and a Magic Keyboard, a spacious trackpad and a 6-speaker sound system will be found in the new models. You won't be able to tell which model is new based on appearance. The I/O will remain the same as well, with 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports and an HDMI port and SD card slot, a 3.5mm headphone jack and a MagSafe 3 connector for the fast charging. So what about the specifications? The performance gains, according to the leaks, Apple Pro will be worth the wait. Better performance, longer battery life and less heat. It is self-evident that the new Macs will be equipped with M2 Pro and M2 Max chip, and this is where things starts to get interesting. The benchmark scores for the M2 Max were recently leaked. The new chip contains 12 cores and operates at base frequency of 3.54 GHz. Okay, now that the rumors are out of the way, it's time to answer the question. So what do we want from the upcoming MacBooks? Personally, I would prefer a larger size of base storage. It's likely to stay at 512 GB, but increasing it to 1 TB would be a wise move. The base unified memory will most likely remain at 16 GB, gigabytes, but I would like it to start at 24 gigabytes. That makes perfect sense and makes new models appear better than previous ones. Another thing I would like to see are changes to that notch. I have 3 ideas about it. First, it will shrink. I don't think the notch has to be this big to house a camera, so it can probably get smaller. My second theory, Face ID, is less likely. It appears that a year and a half after the initial notch design was revealed is sufficient time to make this change. I understand that the Face ID is a very complex system comprised of a slew of not so thin sensors, but some things need to be done about that notch. The dynamic island is the final and most likely unchanged. New MacBooks will not have the Face ID. Adding the dynamic island may be a good idea, nothing more than a tiny hole for the camera. Another thing I would like is more brightness. The front screen is already very bright, but adding a couple hundred nits won't hurt, right? It is currently set at 500 nits. There must be a way to increase it all the way to 600 nits. I'm sure it can be done with software. Remember the MacBook Air before the M1? It was initially released with a brightness of 300 nits, but a software update increased that value to 400 nits. Perhaps the same could be done for the new MacBook Pros without changing the panels, but all of these rumors raise one question. Should you buy existing Macs in early 2023? Yes, I believe so, because you never know what Apple will show, and current Macs are excellent. The M2 Air will not be updated for at least a year, and the M1 Air will most likely remain in the lineup. But to summarize what I have said, 2023 will be a fantastic year for MacBooks.